program is the Active Center.
All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack one of the biggest debates in economics, period. I'm talking about a real clash of titans over the one thing that truly makes our world go round. And really, it all comes down to this one huge, provocative question. Is our economy built on a virtue or a vice? I mean, is that drive for profit a good thing that builds us all up? Or is it just greed that needs to be kept in check? So let's meet our contenders. In one corner, you've got Milton Friedman, the ultimate champion of the free individual. And in the other corner, John Maynard Keynes, the architect of a system he believed needed careful management to save capitalism from itself. Okay, think of this slide as our cheat sheet for the whole debate. It lays out exactly where these two thinkers part ways on three really big questions. First, what even is business? Friedman says, hey, it's just people making voluntary deals. But Keynes, he saw it driven by these wild, unpredictable animal spirits. Then, why do we do business? For Friedman, it's a rational drive to make our lives better. Keynes, on the other hand, saw it as a raw necessity to accumulate capital. And finally, what's its significance to society? Friedman sees business as the very source of our prosperity and our freedom. But Keynes, he saw it as a powerful but dangerous tool that absolutely needs the state to manage it. All right, let's start with Friedman's corner. We're going to dive into his powerful and, honestly, for a lot of people, pretty surprising argument that the free market isn't just about efficiency. He says it's fundamentally moral. So this is absolutely key to understanding Friedman. He makes this huge distinction. He'd say, we're not talking about greed, right? That word has all sorts of nasty baggage. No, he says we're talking about self-interest. And that's just the simple, totally rational idea that you, me, all of us know what's best for ourselves. We know how to spend our own money and time better than anyone else. And this is where it all clicks into place with his famous butcher example. Think about it. The butcher isn't selling you meat because he's a great guy who wants to feed his community. No, he's just trying to earn a living. But in doing that, by pursuing his own self-interest, he ends up feeding the whole town. For Friedman, that's the absolute genius of capitalism. You get millions of people all just looking out for themselves, and it creates this incredibly complex, cooperative system, all without some central planner telling everyone what to do. And this is where Friedman throws down the gauntlet to his critics. He asks this deceptively simple question: just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us. His point? Everyone, and he means everyone, including politicians and bureaucrats, is driven by self-interest. So why on earth would we trust a government planner's self-interest over a business owner's? And really, this is his knockout punch. Economic self-interest in the marketplace has to work through persuasion. You have to convince me to voluntarily buy your stuff. But political self-interest? Whoa, that's a whole different ballgame. That works through coercive force, the power of laws, regulations, and taxes. For Friedman, the choice between those two, well, the danger of one over the other is crystal clear. Okay, but that's only half the story. Let's hear the counter-argument. Returning now to John Maynard Keynes, who looked at the very same system and saw something completely different. He didn't see a beautiful self-regulating machine. He saw a powerful, sputtering engine that was in desperate need of a skilled driver at the wheel. And you can just hear his deep skepticism in this classic, biting quote. Capitalism is the astounding belief that the most wickedest of men will do the most wickedest of things for the greatest good of everyone. I mean, Keynes just found it utterly absurd to think that if you just let the most greedy people run wild, it would somehow magically work out for the best. He just didn't buy it for a second. So instead of Friedman's calm, rational actor, Keynes saw the economy being driven by what he famously called animal spirits. And what does that mean? It's all the stuff that isn't rational. It's gut feelings, weaves of optimism, sudden bursts of pessimism, all the irrational manias and panics that cause investors to either flood the market with cash or yank it all out in a heartbeat. And according to Keynes, when you let those animal spirits run wild, this is what you get. You don't get stable, steady growth, no. You get a vicious cycle of speculative bubbles, catastrophic financial collapses, mass unemployment, and the kind of destructive inequality that can tear a society apart. Now, this part is really important to get right. Keynes was not an enemy of capitalism. Far from it. He thought it was an incredible engine for creating wealth. His whole argument was that this engine needs a steward, a government to act like a good mechanic, someone to gently apply the brakes when it's overheating, or give it some gas when it's about to stall. All right, now the gloves come off. This is the rebuttal round. We're going to put their core arguments head to head. And it really boils down to this: a battle between the fear of government coercion on one side and the fear of total market collapse on the other. Friedman fires right back. He argues that Keynes' so-called cure, government intervention, is actually way deadlier than the disease. He'd point to history and say, look, it's government meddling, not the free market, that caused the biggest economic disasters, like the Great Depression. And this quote just nails his point. The entrepreneur who makes a mistake loses his own money. The politician or bureaucrat who makes a mistake uses your money. Think about that. In the market, if you mess up, you pay the price. You have skin in the game. But when a government official messes up, everyone else, that's us, the taxpayers, gets stuck with the bill. But Keynes would just push back and call this whole argument a false dichotomy. He'd say Friedman is framing it all wrong. For Keynes, the choice isn't some simple cartoon of total liberty versus total coercion. No, the real choice is between building a smart, managed, and civilized version of capitalism versus an uncivilized, chaotic one. And that brings us to his ultimate vision. For Keynes, you see, economics was never the end goal. Making money was just a means to an end. The whole point of having a prosperous economy was to finally free humanity up to focus on the truly big questions, the permanent problem of the human race. How to live a good, wise, and meaningful life. And this right here just brilliantly sums up the entire conflict. It boils down to what each man feared the most. Friedman's great fear was the commissar, the government official with the power to force you to do things. But Keynes's great fear? It was the market's own psychological flaws, its inherent dangerous instability. So why are we talking about this? Why does any of this history matter? Because this isn't just a dusty old debate. These two competing visions are alive and kicking. They are actively shaping our politics, our economies, and our everyday lives right now. When you boil it all down, Friedman's verdict is simple and powerful. Freedom is the ultimate prize. For him, you absolutely cannot separate economic freedom from political freedom. And he believed history shows time and again that the best way to create prosperity for everyone is for the government to get out of the way and let free people cooperate. Keynes's vision, on the other hand, is that the market is a magnificent tool, but it makes for a terrible master. Left to its own devices, it has no moral compass. He argued that it absolutely requires intelligent, steady management by the state to make sure it serves a greater social purpose than just piling up more and more wealth. And so the great debate is nowhere near over. It's happening all around us. When you look at the world today, at massive government stimulus plans on one side and incredible entrepreneurial innovation on the other, whose ideas do you see at work? Is it Friedman's free individual or Keynes's managed system that's winning out? The question now is yours to ponder.